Computer. All right, as of this point, we're recording. What I'm going to show you is the boards that I did for what I intended to be about a 5-minute film called Audrey, and it was based on my characters from Racket in the Attic. And that, remember, that was me stealing the personalities off my twin son and twin daughter, and I put them onto bats, and I placed them into an old Victorian house. And Wild Brain liked that idea. They were going to run with it. I was going to become a director. I was a director. But then in 2000, in 1999, 2000, the whole industry fell apart and 2D animation basically died. And so I had already sold the rights to that to Wild Brain. But then I reworked it, and I didn't want to use Racket in the Attic. So the main character, human character's name is Audrey. She's funky. She's got red hair and freckles, and she has no friends because her mother just moved her to a new high school in the middle of her sophomore year in high school. And so she's mad, kind of like a combination of Aubrey Plaza and Christina Ricci, kind of, just giving yourself an idea of what human characters in real films might have been similar to your character. So what I have is, let me make sure I have the right file open here. Oh, there it is. So what I have here is a bunch of my boards. Everyone see this okay?
You're not screen sharing?
Okay, can you see it?
Nope.
No?
No.
All right, yeah, I'm glad I asked because I'm using a preview mode. So let me switch to just this. And it's going to take me into Photoshop. That's not what I want. Hold on a second. All right, so I have 40 panels for this. It's about a 4-minute film. So I'm going to open these with preview. And now you should be able to see this. So I'm going to preview this for what.
We're still seeing your
So now you
face.
should see it now. You see it
Billy,
now?
we only see you.
We only see you.
Oh, okay. All right, let's try this. How about now?
You can see it now.
Now you can see Audrey. Audrey, right? So Audrey, her name is Audrey, but she's odd, so her name is Audrey. Once again, reinforcing the idea of numbering your panels. Panel numbers are in the upper left. Your scene 0, see SC0, scene 0. Shot number 1. What I had done was probably page 2 first, and I should have to go back and put the title card in there, which would allow me a space for either a second title card, like you see written here, or animation. If I wanted some bats to come in and land on the words, then I had a place for that. Page number is in the lower right. Remember that my slug includes the actual timing per panel. So this is in frames. And then I have the dialogue if there is any, and then inner voice and direction. I went over and did this for you all last week, and I just didn't buy it. I started thinking about sequencing and scenes and shots, and I put the title in there, and I had a little drawing that I was going to do shot by shot by shot. So you could put the action in there, and you could put the inner thoughts and the dialogue, and then it's like, I wasn't enthusiastic about how my sketch was coming out in terms of writing a script template for animation, and I stopped. So I don't apologize because I don't know exactly where I want that to go right now. So let me just put that away. All right, so back in the preview mode here, this is what I expect your boards to look like. So drawing a nice view of the establishing shot. Shot 1, panel 3, shot 1. Scene 1, shot 1. A little sketch to give yourself what the idea of the shot number 1 continue is going to be like, because you're going to have a zoom in to the upper part of the mansion here. And let's go quickly here. We see Becca looking around. She's sad. She's in bat school. And remember, pay attention. Panel numbers, scene numbers, shot numbers. Panel, scene, shot. Page numbers. She's in bat school. She's just got a very bad report card. She's failing everything because she can't fly. So she looks around. She stuffs the grade report in the side table. She looks around and we look around. And she decides to run down the end of the hallway. The camera follows her. And then we switch to her POV. So this panel 18 is the reverse of panel 19. And I could do like a 3D thing, or I could do a switch around, but it's not necessary. Chicks in anticipation, starts to run really fast, realizes she's not going fast enough, starts to tumble. And I have to add a few tumbles in here. And then she starts tumbling, and falls down the steps. And instead of little birds, she's got bats flying around her head. And we cut. So this should be a fade to black and then fade up from black. We see the schoolyard. We see the kids sitting there. Audrey comes out. The bullies trip her. And Booker falls out of her backpack. So she gathers her stuff. Booker flies up. And then he flies off screen. We cut to shot 2 in scene 3 of the principal's door, which is right to the right of the bullies. And he goes and gets a pitcher of water and pours it on the principal. You can see that Booker was knocking on the door there. So he pours the water on the principal. And then he goes and takes the jug of water and gives it to one of the bullies. And the bullies are like, what? And they look around, what? And then Booker flies down underneath the bullies, ties their shoelaces together. And then the principal is like, all right, what are you two doing? At this point, Audrey is like, uh-oh, she's in trouble with the bullies because the bullies know what's going on. She's going to be in trouble with the principal for having a backpack. She's got red hair, freckles. It's the middle of summer, or going to be summer. And she's just got to get out of there. So she's mad. So in this sequence, she should be running. And you can see that there's a note here that I had to fix the line of action in this pose. She should be running. And she gets stopped. Hey, you're weird, but that was cool. Okay, thanks, bye. And then again, just a note, this has to be faster. This has to be panic. So I need to redraw this board. And I put a note for myself. Go, go, go. What's her inner voice? Go, go, go. Get the hell out of there. But we cut back to Becca, and she is pulling herself along the top of the banister with a giant rubber band. She pulls it back and just springs herself right into the ground. We cut back to Audrey and Booker, and she's mad at Booker for hiding in the backpack and causing all this mayhem. He hides. We cut back to Becca. She's rigged up an ironing board and a steamer chest in the middle of the hallway. She pulls it back and lets it go and launches herself, hopefully right out the window, and instead knocks right into the bowl of fruit, which knocks over the coat of arms. The blade cuts the table in half and sends her flying out the window. So, oops, sorry. In this panel right here, I would start really close. I would start really close with Becca flying out the window, and then pull out to reveal that Audrey and Booker are pulling up on the bike. And then Booker's like, Becca, and both of them, knowing full well that she can't fly, are panicked. And so Becca is tumbling and goes right into the compost truck. So Booker flies after her. Audrey gets on her bike. They crash down the street. What I don't have here is that this is supposed to be reminiscent of the Terminator, where she's just like coming out of the trash truck or a compost truck, and her arms are flailing and there's banana peels flying out and stuff. And again, Booker's really upset. His twin sister's in trouble. He's following the truck. These trees should be blurred, and he smacks into the back side of one of the overhead signs and falls right back into Audrey's basket on the bike. She parks because the truck stops, and in a series of drawings goes from parking the bike to running to climbing up on top of the truck to grabbing Becca And then as the truck moves forward, she loses grip on Becca. So she doesn't throw her, but Becca flies backwards and then right into the basket for her bike, for Audrey's bike, with some kind of force. But that puts Audrey upside down on the back of the compost truck. And then Booker is like, oh no, so he flies off to try to go help her. And I need another shot establishing the truck in the street, because now I've got Becca running, Booker flying, and Audrey upside down on the top of the back of the compost truck. And here's me driving in my 72 Buick Skylark convertible. And I look over to my left and I see this. And then I look over again in a close-up view, a POV shot, and I'm not paying attention, so I crash right into a field of flowers. The truck stops. Audrey falls down in a series of shots, a series of drawings for shot 20 and shot 21, gathers up her friends and goes to the sidewalk and goes, oh. Meanwhile, we cut to scene 8, shot 23, of the bullies coming down the sidewalk. And they're grousing at each other, and I have to re-look at their designs. And they notice the bats, and I could cut back to this shot right here, and then they run off like little babies. So they run across the street and down. And here's that girl that we met when she was saying, you're weird, but you're cool. And she's got her friend with her who's kind of a geek, and they approach the bats. And I made a note because the bats are like, oh no, another human. And he's like, oh, cool, bats. And I need a better pose right there. And then he's supposed to go in there and go, wow, bats are cool. And that kind of ends this little shot right there. All right, so then that was 39, 30, 39, 40 pages. And what I'm gonna do is just put this away. And there's David Coleman, Harry. This is one of the latest things that David Coleman has just put on Instagram, is this really cool drawing of a tiger. Really simple gestural drawing. All right, so does everyone pick up on that? I'm just gonna stop the screen sharing for a second. Does everyone understand what is entailed in those kind of boards?
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do for you is to show you a couple of things. So pay attention. This is gonna be recorded. I definitely will put this on YouTube, but pay attention. I'm gonna go back. So you can, I have to share my screen with you. So I'm gonna share my screen with you again. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to this folder here, and so these are all contained in this folder right here. It says Audrey boards. You can tell Audrey boards 001 through 040. I'm gonna take this folder and I'm gonna copy this folder. I'm gonna copy the Audrey boards. I'm gonna go back to my desktop and I'm just gonna paste it. I'll just paste it right here in the middle. It might take a moment, but my computer's fast. So it's right here. I can open it up and double check it to make sure that all of them copied correctly. And I'm understanding that you may not be able to see it. Can you see that? Anybody?
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
But when I do this, can you see this?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see Audrey. So I can just double check with my arrow button and make sure that they all got copied correctly. All right, so there's a couple of things about this. O boards are all named exactly the same except for the 019 and O all the way through it. So that's a copy right there. And it's right here. So I'm gonna make a new folder. And this folder is just gonna be demo. And I'm gonna click off of it. And I'm gonna put the Audrey boards inside of that folder. And a couple of things I can do here. So one of the things I can do is I can click on this and I can you see this? Can you see it now purple, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna open these all in Photoshop. And I'm not gonna do all of it, but I'm just gonna show you. So I'm gonna open these all in Photoshop. And this is gonna take a moment because now I've got 40 drawings coming in and I'm gonna have 40 different tabs. Gonna take a minute. By the way, when I scanned these, I made sure that these were scanned at 600 DPI so that I could zoom as close into them as I needed to be. So keep that in mind. You should be drawing your boards either high quality pencil on paper or digitally. So, get this going. All right, so all 40 of them are in there. I'm gonna go, let's see if I can go all the way back. So I'm gonna put a couple of these away because I only wanna do the first couple of pages. So, and it's going backwards and I can see my tabs moving across the top. All right, so I only want the first couple, and what I'm gonna show you how to do is, all right, so I got board 1 right here. So this is exactly where I want to be. So what I want to do is talk about a couple of things. So I've got this as the original, and remember that this is a copy of itself. So I have copies of this all over the place. And I can just unlock this background, and I can go to my adjustments palette, and I can just put the histogram on it, and I can look what's going on over in the board, and I can say, okay, this is really deep here on the white, so I probably don't want to move this to the left too much. Just a little bit will help, just to get rid of some of the texture on the paper. And I don't think I need to move my middle too much, so I'm just going to move that right there. I'm going to save this, and as I save this, it becomes a PDF, a PSD. And so it's going into the wrong place right now. The last place I put anything in was the Jinx book. So I don't want it there. I want it to go into the folder called demo. So I'm going to go find that demo folder. And it should be right here. So there's my board. So I want to go inside this folder and say save. Save. And I'm just going to jump over and make sure that it's in there. So inside my demo folder, I'm going to put this away. And sure enough, there's my PSD. All right, so I can just put this away now. So I'm going to save and I'm going to put this away. Same thing with this one. Now on this one, you can see that when I was scanning it, it was crooked a little bit. And so you can either fix it here, or I'm going to show you how to fix it in InDesign. So right now, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to unlock this. I'm sorry, I'm going to unlock this. I'm going to go to the adjustments palette. I'm just going to do a quick adjustment on this. And I'm holding my mouse over here, but I'm just looking at my drawings. I got a nice black over there, so that's nice. I push it to the right too far, it gets too black. So right about there is really nice. So when I'm moving this black arrow, I'm just looking at my black point. So right there is good. And then I'm going to move my white point to see if I can get the white back. And I'm not looking at the arrow, I'm just looking at my drawing, and right, this is too much. So right about there is good. And then I can play with my mid-tone. I can bring back the black, or I can bring in the white. Right about there is okay. I'm going to hit save, and it too is becoming a PSD, and now it should be going into the demo folder. Say okay, save it and put it away. Same thing with this one. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to unlock it. I'm just going to do adjustments. And remember in the new adjustments palette that this palette stays active. It's not like the old. So a lot of times what you can do is you can write an action script to do this if you know all the drawings are in the same basic aesthetic. And so you could write these numbers 105, 1 over 255 down, whatever they end up being, or you could just do it manually for each specific board panel. Right about there is okay. So I'm going to save. I'm going to just put it away. And I'm going to do the next one. So this one is going to be a little different. It's a little lighter. So I'm going to unlock. I'm going to do adjustment. I'm going to do adjustment for a histogram. I'm going to now have to pay close attention to this. I want my blacks. Definitely okay. White, not too much. You'll lose some of the black you just gained in the upper panels. Move it back a little bit, and right about there, fiddle with this just a little bit. Say save, save it, put it away, and I've got one more, two more. Okay, so let's just do two more. So on this one, I'm just going to do adjustments. levels, grab the black, watch your black point. That's good. I'm keep going. Right about there is good. You can pay attention to those numbers right here if you want to. Like I said, play with the midpoint. And right about there is looking okay. Save, put it away, and let's do the last one. So this is our first page. All right, and then I'm gonna level this one. So this was like right about there. So I know that in the histogram, my first black arrow was right about the end of the slope right there. And that's true about the way it should be. It should be right about there. So without even looking at your drawing, your black arrow in your histogram should be right about where the black starts. So right about there is good. And you can fiddle back and forth with this just a little bit. You can move your white point to the left a little bit just to get some of the white back. And then you can move your midtone just to make sure that you're not missing any midtones. Hit save. Hit put away. And then let's go back and look at that folder. And inside that folder, we see our first 6 Photoshop documents. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to InDesign. And you can do this with InDesign. You can do this with a number of different applications. But I'm going to open up a new document. I'm going to say, I want this document to be, I want it to be a custom. I want it to be in the horizontal mode. I've done a bunch of pre-math, if you will, and I have to find that for just a second, but let me redo it here just with my little calculator. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking for the 16:9 ratio, and so 16:9 translates to 8:4.5, and if I wanted, so that's too big. That's too big of a storyboard panel. So if I make the storyboard panels 4:2.25, that is the same ratio as 16:9. So I'm going to make the width 4 inches by 2.25, 2.25. I'm going to say, okay, but I had, let me just take a look at, I forgot how many pages we had, 7, 8 pages, 8 times 4 is 32. So I want 40 pages here. So I want 40 pages. I'm going to say, okay. And it's going to automatically give me the full view of the first page. I don't want this all the way out here. So I'm just going to hit Z and move my mouse to the left. And as I do this, you can see that my pages are all set up like this. And we're not going to use InDesign except for just the layout tool, so don't freak out. If it doesn't look like this, then you go to File, Document Setup, and you can change a bunch of things here. You do not want the facing pages. So when you're opening up InDesign, make sure that this is deselected. This should be identical to what you just said. It should be 40 pages long. You have margins that are a ½ inch away from the edge, just to let you know that this purple and magenta is a ½ inch away, and that looks correct. Right, and just say okay. Again, that was File, Document Setup, right there. All right, so now I got 40 pages here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to say demo 4, just so that it's something different. I'm going to let it go to the desktop, and I'm going to put it away. And then I'm going to go back to my desktop, and I'm going to put it inside that folder. Now, InDesign works because it's a feeder file. The files that are living inside of InDesign work almost identical to the way they work in After Effects, is that you can pull files from all over your computer, all kinds of places. But the instant you move something, it'll get broken. In After Effects, you'll see a little color bar that says, nope, not working. In InDesign, it won't say that it's not broken. It'll just show you a little warning. It'll say, oh, a little triangle, this isn't linked correctly, or there'll be a stop sign that says I can't find it, but it'll still show you a 72 DPI preview of that JPEG, TIFF, Targa, PDF, PSD, whatever it is. And so it could trick you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to this folder. I'm going to open up the InDesign file inside of my demo folder. So now it's new. All right, and then I'm going to start building my animatic. So in building an animatic, or I'm sorry, building my storyboard for the animatic is I'm gonna hit the V key on the keyboard, which is just like the Adobe Suite. That's my main select key, just because that's where I want to start from. Then I'm going to hit File, Place. And you always remember that it's Command D is to place. In InDesign, you do not copy or paste. You do not import, you place an image. It is Command D. And I'll show you why this is important here in just a minute. So go to your desktop, go find the folder so that it remembers where you are. And I'm just going to do this one image at a time. You can bring in them all if you want, but they're attached to the cursor. See that? And you just drop in the first one, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to move it. And you can see that my image is just a little too big as compared to what the actual layout is. In InDesign, there's a little tool right here called your normal view and your workplace view, but it doesn't work if you click on it. You have to hit the escape key and the W key. So that's what it actually looks like, and that's not what I want. So E is the transformation tool, and that's right here. It just shows you right there. E is transformation. In InDesign, E is transformation. So I'm gonna hit the E key. I'm going to grab the corner, like I'll just put the cursor over the corner, hit the shift key, and then wait for a moment, because then it'll show you what your transformation is like on the fly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this distance right here between the edge of my storyboard panel and the edge of the actual page in InDesign are basically the same on the left and the right. So now if I hit the escape key and the V key, to go back to the move tool, I can just move it fast, or I can grab it and wait for a moment and I can move it on the fly. And this is okay. So right now what I see is that the border, the lines that I drew for my storyboard panel are outside of the lines for the page. And this is exactly what I want. I do not want this. I do not want to see these lines. So you understand what I'm looking at here? So in my work group mode, I can see everything. I can go back and I say, this is panel 1, this is shot 1, this is 48 frames, title card, this is Audrey by Billy B. And I can see this is a PSD in my links palette. I don't know where my links palette is here. I can see that I've got one Photoshop document inside the InDesign file. And these other 3 are blank up here, so I don't need to worry about them. So now I'm going to go to page 2, and you can see down here on the left that I'm on page 2. And in the pages palette, you can see I'm on page 2. So now I'm going to place the second PSD, and it'll give me a little preview here. Now I've got 4 storyboard panels to put in here. So I'm going to just place it right here. And once again, I'm going to grab it and wait for just a moment and move it. And this one doesn't have to be transformed too much, but it does need to be rotated. So just hover your mouse over the corner, wait for a moment, and just rotate it until the lines are parallel with the storyboard panels. And then you are still on the E key, or transformation. So grab the corner, hit the shift key, and transform it down until, again, until this distance is about the same as this distance. And then with the V key, the main move key, wait for a moment and then move it so that you don't see the background. Hit the escape key and the W key to make sure. I can see there's a little line right there, so I'm gonna hit the arrow up. And that looks okay. I'm gonna hit it down so you can see that line, right? I don't want that line in there. All right, so I'm gonna hit the W key again to see my workgroup mode. So this PSD has been rotated just a little bit to compensate for the scanning error that I made. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this PSD. I'm gonna go down here to page 3. I'm gonna hit the escape and the V key, touch this, and I'm gonna paste this in place. So I wanna file, edit, paste in place. Or you can learn with that keyboard shortcut, which is Shift, Option, Command, V. Now what I can do is I can just hit the shift key, grab this, wait for a moment, and just move it over to the left. And I'm going to hit escape and W to make sure I don't see the border. That's okay. Hit the W key again. Go down to page 4. Make sure you're on page 4. Hit shift, option, command, paste in place again. And now I'm going to move it up. So I'm just going to grab, and don't hit this. This is moving underneath the frame. That's the equivalent of the direct select. Just hit escape and the main select V, and then hit your shift key, grab it, wait for a moment, and then move it up so that it fits right in the frame right there. And then you can copy this one if you'd like. So copy this in place and go back down now to page 5. Click on page 5, hit shift, option, command V, grab it, hit the shift key, wait for a moment, and then just move it to the left. And right there, to double check, we're gonna get a little red line right here. That's okay. All right, everyone understand? So let's place the other ones. And remember that these have already been touched up in Photoshop, right? Somebody just answered to say, yes, it's already been touched up in Photoshop. Somebody.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so watch.
it is.
So now that we've placed this, we can see that there's a bunch of scrubbly little gray stuff that we don't want right here. So I'm going to just touch it with my left arrow, and I'm going to make sure that it's my main select key by hitting escape and V on the keyboard. I'm going to touch it again and hit right click and edit with Photoshop, and it's going to open it up in Photoshop. And look, we kind of missed this when we were doing our levels. Here's our original levels. So let's take this mid-tone and bring it down a little bit. And that's too much. So let's take the black and give it a little bit more black, and then take the white and move the white to the left a little bit more. And that cleans it up pretty good. Let's put the mid-tone and bring back a little bit of the black. Right about there is good. Hit save, put it away, go back to InDesign, and here we go. And so now it's cleaned up already. If you do too many fixes in a row, you'll see a little gamut arrow right here. Let's make that error so that you can see it. So I'm going to edit this with Photoshop. It's going to open up. I'm going to do something. Let's say that we want to do another adjustment. Let's say we want to do curves. So let's say we do like a little curve on it or something. Just something very soft. And hit save. And when we go back to InDesign, it's okay, right? It's there, it's done it, but let's do one more. So let's go back to Photoshop and let's do one more little fix to it. So let's go, let's erase something. So with my regular erasing tool, I'm just gonna erase something. I'm gonna erase this little stamp bit right here. I'm just gonna erase that. Oh, I have to be on the right level. So I'm gonna erase this. And we hit save, and then we would go back to InDesign. Now, all of those have a little warning in there. You see that, everybody? And so just touch the main, because it's been repeated 4 times. Just hit the main upper folder and hit right click and say update all instances of board 002. And then it fixes them. You can close this if you want. So, because there's 4 instances of this PSD. All right, and remember, I'm recording this and I'll put this on YouTube, so that's why I'm going fast. All right, so pay attention. We're on storyboard panel 2. It says 002, so we need 003, so I'm gonna place 003, and it's gonna be right here. I'm gonna do the same thing just to reinforce. We're gonna move this, we're gonna move, see what happens, the difference is just moving it quickly. You can't see what you're doing, so just move it. Grab it and wait for a moment. You're gonna have to rotate this one, so grab the corner and just wait for a moment so you can move it on the fly. Wait till those lines are parallel with each other and then let it go. Hit the E key for transformation, grab the corner, hit shift and wait for a moment. And then just like we did before, make sure that this distance right here and this distance are about the same, and then you'll be close. So grab this, move it, wait for a moment and move it. And I don't want to see any lines inside the story panel. So hit escape and W, and you see this line right here. So it's already selected. Just hit your arrow keys, move it to the left a little bit, move it down a little bit, and we made it too small. So hit the E key and expand it just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm hitting the shift key, arrow down, arrow right, arrow up. It's still just a little too small. So shift, grab, make it a little bigger, and then move it down with the arrow keys. And right about there looks good. Hit the escape and the W key, copy, go to the next page, touch the next page, hit the V key to get rid of the blue arrow, blue line, paste in place, which once again is edit, paste in place. So now we hit the space bar to move this up. Now I'm gonna grab this with my main select key, hit shift, and move this over. And so now you can see that slugging your boards is a discrete advantage when you're working in InDesign, because this is what you're going to render. This is what a rendered JPEG is going to look like. But when you're in InDesign, you can see all your information still. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. That's why I prefer doing it this way. All right, so this needs cleaning up a little bit too. So let's right click and say, edit with Photoshop. And this always happens, that you get into this and you're going to have to redo your level. So I'm just moving that to the left just a little bit. Hit save and put away. We'll go back to InDesign, and it's already cleaned up and waiting. All right, so then I'm going to go down to this page right here. Touch, paste in place. Now this one's got to be moved up. So grab and wait for a moment and move it up. Oops, I went too far. So when you go outside the frame there, it's not gonna take your command. So your mouse cannot drag an image into the areas between the two pages. So grab, shift, move this up a little bit. Okay, I'm wondering why, oh look, this one didn't take the fix right here. So let's update this one, update the link, and there, now it's fixed better. I don't know, that usually doesn't happen like that. All right, let's hit escape and W. So that looks okay. Escape and W again. It's already in the clipboard, but you can copy this page. Click this one, paste in place, and grab it, wait for a moment, and slide it to the left. And hit the escape and W key to check it. It needs to be moved up a little bit. All right, so now I'm gonna hit save on the InDesign file because we've done a bunch of work. I'm gonna put this away. I'm gonna go down here, hit the escape and W key. I'm gonna go to the new page. Remember, if you wanna always keep track of where you were, we were on board 4. We were on board 3, so now we're on board 4. So place, board 4, open, place, grab and move, rotate, wait for a moment so that it moves it on the fly. Make sure they're parallel. Hit the E key for transformation and do the same thing again. All right, and all of this tediousness will make sense in just a moment. So we're going to take this, and we're going to move it up. We're going to double check it with the work group mode. It's move it over to the right. That looks okay. Work group, we've got too much gray. So I'm going to right click, edit with Photoshop. We're going to move the white to the left a little bit. And that looks okay. Maybe on a little bit of it. And then move the mid back a little bit. Right about there. That looks okay. Hit save and put away. Go back to InDesign. So that looks good. Copy. Go to the next page by clicking here this time and just hit paste in place. Now grab it, hit the shift key, move it over to the left. That's good. Escape and W to double check. Move it down just a little bit, okay? W. All right, now we're going to go to the next page. Touch the next page, deselect it. Hit paste in place. Keep track of where you are. This one's going up now, so grab it, shift, and move it up. Escape and W to make sure you get rid of the lines. I don't want to see any storyboard lines. So that looks okay right there. Copy this one, go to this page and paste it in place. And then just grab it, shift, and move to the left. Hit the work group mode, move it to the left. Oh, that one's really off. We have to move it down a lot. I don't know that happened. It was a little error that happened right there. It looks okay. So let's just check the one above it. Hit the work group mode. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. All right, so let's do a couple of things right now. We've got 13 images, and right now that's about it. That's a good start right now. Let me just jump back over to Zoom for 1 second. Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm going fast, but you'll be able to review this. No questions? Even in the chat.
I have one. I have one.
Yes,
I was
blanks.
just trying to see how did you set up your page layout in InDesign, because I'm still trying to figure out new things.
Okay, so what I did is I did a little bit of math, and I can just go to my calculator here, and I can say 16 by 9.
Yeah, I can't
16
see
divided
it.
by 9 equals 1.77777. So that's
Yeah.
the aspect ratio that we're dealing with. So if I knew that I wanted my story panels to be 4 inches, then I would say 4 times 1.77777 equals, that's the wrong number for the, if I wanted it to be horizontal and vertical. They belong to each other. So if I want 4 by 7, so that would be 4 inches high and 7 inches wide, that's a big story panel. And the exact measurements would be 4 inches tall by 7.1 inches wide. That's how it works. So if I knew that I wanted my story panel to be 4 inches wide, then I do 4 divided by 1.77777 equals 2.25. And we got that math by just looking at the aspect ratio of 16 by 9. 16 by 9, and I took divided that by half. And half of 16 by 9 is 8 by 4.5. And then half of that is 4 by 2.25. And it's exactly the right ratio. So these storyboard panels that I drew and printed, or made in InDesign and printed, fit into this InDesign layout perfectly because the math is the same. Do you want me to do that one more time? So we know that the storyboard panel is going to be 4 inches wide divided by 1.77777 equals 2.25 inches. And you could just use that. You could just make sure that you set up your InDesign file or whatever, your Photoshop file, to be 4.4 by 2.25. It's just that simple. And then remember that in InDesign, it's file document setup to get to the width and height. And those should match. 4 inches wide by 2.25 inches tall is exactly 16 by 9 ratio. You do not want to use a 16 inches wide by 9 inches tall in After Effects. You don't need to do that for your animatic. You know what I mean? So remember, we are in week 10 right now. And so this is a perfect time to give you this demonstration here for how to put an animatic together so that you know how much work you have in store for you. You okay, Blanks?
Yes, I was just taking some notes.
Okay, good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save this. We're going to go back and look at our folder. And our folder has the, can everyone see this? Can everyone see my screen?
No.
Oh, because I stopped the share. Hold on one second. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. So now you should be able to see this demo folder. In the demo folder, I have the InDesign file, which has a temporary file right above it because it's still open. And then I have my PSDs, and then these are the original boards, the 40 JPEGs that we are converted, the first 6 of them into PSDs. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, so when you look at this, I'm going to zoom out. Hold on a second. I'm going to zoom out and just take a look at what our actual file looks like. So we have the title card, the first storyboard panel, the second one, the third, and the fourth. You see how it's lined up? See how that's working right there? Now remember, we're going to do a camera move on this first image, and we're going to do a camera move on this image, but we have to use After Effects in order to do that. So we're going to export a bunch of images. So we're going to go File, Export, or you could just hit Command E. So we're going to export, and it's going to take from whatever the position that you were doing in the last time. So we're going to go into the demo folder, and I don't want PDFs. Actually, at this point, I'm okay with just a JPEG, and we're going to hit Save. So I'm exporting demo 4 from my InDesign file into the demo folder as JPEGs, and hit Save. It's going to give me one more dialog box. I'm going to say that I want just the first 13 drawings. So I want 1 through 13. See that right there? Range 1 through 13. Otherwise, if I had said yes to all, it would have given me a bunch of blank JPEGs. I don't want that. Resolution is 600 dpi. Maximum quality, baseline format, 600 dpi. Got it? I'm going to hit export, and it only takes a moment. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Come on. It's doing its job. And they're in there. So before we do anything, let's go check them. So inside this folder now, I've got a bunch of JPEGs. So I'm going to make a folder inside this demo folder that just has the word animatic. So I'm going to make a folder that says animatic. And I'm going to put the JPEGs that I just made, which are right here. They're all 600 dpi. They're all like a meg and a half. I'm going to drop them inside the animatic folder. I'm going to go backwards to make sure they're in the right place. And I'm just going to hit the, so it's showing me that's 600 dpi, right? Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So, and I can arrow down, I could just check them. You know, they look okay. They're looking pretty good right there. And that's why I wanted to do it this way. All right. All right, and I know I'm going fast, but I don't care because I'm recording this, and you'll all be able to go back and look at the details eventually. All right, so I want to do one more thing here. I want to make an animatic. And I'm also going to go back into this demo InDesign file, and I'm going to redo this InDesign demo file so that you can export a PDF, so that you can just export the pages that are that you can make an actual printable portfolio out of. But right now we're going to go into After Effects, and what I need to do right now is go get a drink of water. So take 2 minutes. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stop the recording for just a moment. I'm going to stop the recording for just a moment. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, I think I stopped the recording. All right, so take a short break. I'm going to go to drink water. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to resume here. I have a feeling that the Zoom was still recording, even that little break right there. I'm going to go back here. Oh, wait. Okay, there we are. So I'm in Zoom. Can everyone still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in After Effects, and I don't think I asked everyone or anyone if you knew After Effects. Sometimes I keep track of these things because it makes a difference for how fast I go. I'm just checking my paperwork here. I don't think I asked you if you knew After Effects. After Effects is an incredible tool. It's just completely and totally freakishly awesome. We're only going to use it to make an animatic. We're just going to do this in InDesign, get it out of InDesign, put it into Photoshop, get it into InDesign, take it into After Effects, make an animatic. We're just going to get into it and get out of it. You can learn all the other cool stuff about After Effects later. So don't be dismayed, don't be worried. But doing an animatic is the last step in pre-pro. After you've done your animatic, you actually start laying out, start redefining what your backgrounds look like, and start animating. And so your animatic has to be done really well. I've just opened up After Effects. That's all I've done. And I'm saying, this is what I get. I get a dialog box on top of my main composition. And I can open up stuff that I've been working in, or I can say new project, new project. Once I do this, I get new composition. I get new composition from footage. I get my timeline. I get all my effects bars down here, and I get my project window. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File and Import and File. So I'm just going to leave it there for a minute because we are going to import multiple files, but you have to be careful because you don't want these multiple files to come in as frames. If you are working in Maya, for instance, and you have exported and rendered a 2-minute animated bit that you've done in Maya, and you've animated it at 24 FPS, you're going to get 480 images, and they're going to be in a folder, and then you're going to put those into After Effects. You're going to say File, Import from multiple files, and it'll all come in as a folder, and then you can just drag the folder in the timeline and you're done. And so that's how it's just really that simple. We're going to just say File, and we're going to go find our little demo folder. Actually, hold on one second. I want to cancel that for just 1 second. We've already said that this is a new project, so I'm going to save this. And it's thinking for a moment. It's thinking. I'm going to save this. Let me just do this one. I want to import the first image, just that title card, because I have intuition here. So go to the demo folder, pick that first demo JPEG and just say open, and it's going to show up. Okay, good. So this is showing up just as a Photoshop document, which is now a JPEG, and importing the import JPEG right here, and it can see the preview is my title card. So now I'm going to hit save, and it's going to say Untitled AEP, After Effects Project. So I'm just going to go back in here and I'm going to say Audrey D for demo, capital D for demo. I'm going to let it go to the desktop, and it's going to After Effects Project. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to put it away. I'm going to hit Command W to put it away, or that's the equivalent of close. Command W is close. So I'm going to go back to the desktop, and here's my After Effects project. I need to put that inside this demo folder. That's where it belongs. And when I do this, the instant that I put this in here and then open it up again, it's going to have, well, it should have had an error. But what's happening is that it recognized automatically that this After Effects project icon is inside this folder, and it knew to go looking for this JPEG. So it was smart. If it didn't, then in this dialog window box over here, you would right click and just say, replace the footage. And you would go find that file again if it doesn't show up correctly. And I don't want to make that error right now, but just remember that your hierarchy should look like this. You should have a bunch of high quality 600 DPI JPEGs in an animatic folder, either coming out of Photoshop all by itself or an InDesign file that are basing those JPEGs on Photoshop documents. And now inside that folder, we have our After Effects project. All right, so now we're going to say this new composition is right there. We're going to just take this JPEG and drag it to the stage. And when we do that, our middle wheel on the mouse becomes the zoom tool. So we can take this and we can move this around, and you can see here that it fit to the stage. The little black area is the stage. We have a new composition, demo 4. I moved it around a little bit, so I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say transition fit to comp, just to make sure it's in the right exact place, fit to comp. And you see that it moved around just a little bit. Now, the other thing that I noticed here is that my timeline is 10, 15, 20, 40, 50. It is 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to bring my images in one by one by one and not by frames, and I'm going to take my composition and I'm going to limit my composition to just around the average shot length, which is about 3.5 seconds. So I'm going to limit my composition to about 3 seconds. So I'm going to say composition and composition settings. So in my composition setting, I'm just going to go down here and the start time code is 0000. And in After Effects, this means hours, minutes, seconds, frames. Hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So this duration here is 2 minutes and 7 seconds. I want it to be 0 minutes. I want it to be 3 seconds and 0 frames. And I'm going to say okay. And when I do that, now I'm showing frames. Now it's just showing this title card for 3 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually back this off the end of it a little bit. And that's how you play around with the timing in After Effects, so that you limit the duration of anything that's playing, whether it's a movie or a JPEG or anything, by moving these bars around here. And you can move the front too. You can move the leader or the end of it. So, and you can move the whole thing. You could just move it like this by dragging it. Remember, our movie right now is only 3 seconds long. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit File, Import, File, and now I'm going to see if it remembers or if it's paying attention. I'm going to hit this JPEG, and I'm going to hit Shift Select the other JPEGs and hit Open, and they came into my project window like this. This is exactly what I want. If you're doing a Maya file, it's going to come in as a folder, and then you would drag the folder to the desktop, and then it would show up its frames down here. So this is exactly what I want. So what I can do now is I can take all of these, because they're all selected already and they're all numbered correctly, and I can just drag them to the stage. I can just put them right there. And now I'm going to get a discrete sandwich of JPEGs right on top of each other that are all 3 seconds long. And I'm just going to pause for a second. What I did is I File, Import, and I went and found that folder, and I Shift selected all of those and hit Open, and they came in. They were still selected. They were all selected with the little gray, and I just dragged them right on the stage. No worries. Look over here in your project window. They're all in order: 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, all the way to 4.3. And what this means is demo 4.2. So we called this project demo 4. And you can see that here in the composition window. It says demo 4 right there. Remember, this movie that we're making right now is only 3 seconds long. Our demo 4, which was actually our title card, needs to go on top. So this, you could just take it and drag it right to the top. And you'll see here that now it changes to my title card. All right, so now what we're going to do is, let's say that you got all of them in. You got all of the images that you want in from your storyboard into After Effects in the correct order, but your movie is only 3 seconds long. So now we're going to go back to the composition settings. And we're going to say, I want this. We've got 14 images at 3 seconds apiece. So this is going to be about a minute or a minute 15 or so. The duration is going to be hours, minutes. So this is going to be 1 minute and 11 seconds and 11 frames. So I'm never brave enough to erase the little colons. I just always do that manually. Take a look at what you've got. You've got 240 over 1350. The aspect ratio is 16:9, which translates to 1.777777. Say okay. And now our timeline is way out there over on the left. So what we can do here is we can slide this over, right? We can see, or we could take this little tool and move it down. So now we can see our entire movie is this long. See what I did right there? I moved this little zoom tool to the left. And now After Effects works that whatever you see on top, this is your timeline, this is your playhead. And so whatever is on top you see. So I'm going to take all of these. And the actual correct way to do this is to shift select all of these and then to move them all and then hit control click. I'm sorry. It's option, command click. So I think it's control click on a PC, and that just deselects the one on top. And I always use like a little stair step. So command click and then do a little stair step. You want them to overlap. Oops, sorry. You want them to overlap a little bit so that you don't ever get black. And if you don't know what I mean by that, you don't want your movie to be playing and then bam, show black. You don't want that. All right, so I'm going to command click. I'm going to just stair step these out. And it's absolutely incorrect for any animatic to have frames like this that are all exactly the same duration of time. And so we're going to have to manipulate this by hand. And so we have just about 20 minutes for me to finish up this little demo, which is perfect. All right, so right now, if we just save this, it's gonna have a little save dialog box. We go here and hit the space bar. We can see what our movie looks like. And this is gonna be terrible. Every single shot is gonna be the exact same 3 seconds long. And that's not what you want. You do not want this at all. In the traditional way of building an animatic, your frames at the beginning of your story should be longer. Your shots should be longer, and then as you get into the action, then your frames should be shorter and your timing should be tighter. So we're going to have to manipulate this a little bit. Time card, title card, 1, 2, 3 seconds is fine. That's fine. Title card, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to just left click on this. I'm going to make the title card red. So it automatically shows up in red. I'm going to open up this little dialog box here, and I'm going to move the transformation down just a little bit. And you can see that there's a bunch of options right here under this transformation. And this is about as deep and about as far into After Effects as we get. But under this effects palette, there's tons of stuff you can do that you can add to anything in After Effects. We're not going to do this. You know, there's tons of stuff. We're not going to do any of it. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to do a simple cross dissolve. So I'm going to make sure that this first drawing here is overlapping the title card by a second or so. And I'm going to go to about right there, and you can see that I've got a full second. right there. And I'm gonna go to the opacity, and I'm just gonna click this little button, and it's gonna create a keyframe right there in the opacity. The opacity is 100% opacity. And then I'm gonna drag this playhead out to the very end. And then I'm gonna drag this opacity number to the left to make it 0. And then that creates a cross dissolve. Got it? So let's see what that looks like when you hit the play button. It's playing. There's a nice little cross dissolve. That's a cross dissolve. And now because I moved this over, there's a little area of black. Watch. Black. You never want that black to happen. So you can stretch this out, right? You can stretch this one out. And on this one, remember that our next shot here is the top of the belfry, the tower, the attic. And so we want to zoom in on this shot right here. We want to zoom in here. So I want this to last maybe a good 4 or 5 seconds. So let's show you how to do a camera move. I'm going to take this, I'm going to leave it about right there. So anything that has a cross dissolve in it is going to have a different color. So anything that we do a cross dissolve is going to be red. So this one, we're going to do a camera move and a cross dissolve. So I'm going to close this one. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to give this one the next color, yellow. So yellow for me means that we're going to do a camera move and a cross dissolve. All right, so let's do the camera move first. So it starts out wide, and then it's going to go to the attic. And so I do want the attic to last for 2 seconds. So I'm going to shift select these. I'm going to move all of these over at once, just to about right there. Now remember, it gets a little unwielding if you've got 50 or 60 images in After Effects. Make sure that they're not overlapping in black. That's good. So I don't want to start my camera move right away. I'm going to start my camera move about 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds into this move. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this scale, position, and rotation buttons all at the same time. And that just sets up 3 keyframes right here. And I can set up the opacity 2 as well. I can just set 100% opacity. So I set up 4 keyframes right there. Now I'm going to go to the end right here, and I'm going to grab it. I'm going to just touch it right on the stage, and I'm going to grab the corner, and I'm going to move it first, and then I'm going to hit the shift key, and then I'm going to move it to the tower. And I want to do like a match cut. So I want to make sure that the tower is in the middle. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to hit, again, grab the corner and then move it, and then move it again. Something like that. I might even want to do a little rotation. So it used to be that you could grab the corner right here, but you can't do that anymore. If you want to do a rotation on this key point, you have to take this numerical value here and grab it with your mouse, and then watch what's happening on the stage. Oh, wrong way. So I want to rotate it just about that much. That automatically sets up a keyframe right there. All right, and then I'm going to select the opacity on this keyframe as well, and I'm going to take the opacity maybe just down to about, and you can see the other panel coming in right there too, right? You see it? So I'm going to set the opacity to be just about 35%. And because I haven't selected anything else, now I can move it in this keyframe over just a little bit, so that it almost matches right where the other one was. So in the rotation, I'm going to rotate it just a little bit more. And I'm going to move it down just a little bit. I can get it to match perfectly. So now I'm going to go away from it. So now I got my title card. I've got a zoom and a rotation and a cross dissolve into the next shot. All right, so you can see that there's a little sliver of black up here. If you want to make sure that that goes away, I can just take my previous drawing, my next drawing, and expand it out leftwards past the point where the where the fade starts to happen. So now let's look at it. Hit the space bar. title card, background, zoom, cross dissolve, and out and done. So hit save. And then remember, all of these images here should be longer. So just in the spirit of the production, these should be longer. So if all these are selected and I grab this one, it's going to make all of those shorter. See what's happening? So you don't want to do that because then you're going to have to move them all individually anyway. So just deselect by clicking anywhere and then just make these just a little bit shorter. Just a little bit shorter than each other. That you're speeding up the overall timing. Figure out where you are, and maybe you want that one to last. She's got a moment there. She's like, oh God, my grades are terrible. So then leave this one at that timing, and then she looks to the left. Now that should be timing. This should be quick. She's just looking to the left really quickly right there, and we cut back to her hiding her her grades, her grade card, and that's a fast movement too. So this is only going to be like that fast, and then this is that's a fast motion too. Remember, so this is very typical of how it's built. Save this, go back to the beginning and hit the space bar. All right, so that was lasting too long. So let's just stop the playback. This was lasting too long right here. So limit it to about right there. Take all of these guys and move them over to the left. Overlap them a little bit. Take a look at it again. Title card, fade, zoom, cross dissolve, and that is still lasting a little too long. Okay, so that's how to do this. I'm gonna hit save, right? And I'm gonna go back to Zoom just for a second. Anyone have any quick questions? I know I'm going too fast, but remember, I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. All right, so I'm gonna do one more thing. And now I'm gonna say, I've already saved it. I'm going to render a movie out of this. And if you've never worked in After Effects, it can be just a little tricky. Remember that if you're doing 40, 50, 60 images here, this work that you have right here could easily take you 4 hours to get the timing just really, really well. For any certain thing, any particular image within your storyboard panel that you do something to, like a camera move or a cross dissolve or rotation or anything, I always colorize them. So then you do that just by left clicking on any of these boxes. You can bring in audio, and I always put audio on the top, and that's the same thing. It says file, import, any song, anything. You could record your own voice. You could have somebody mix it for you and you just bring it right in. It comes in as a WAV file or MP3, MP4, whatever you want. And I always put my audio on top. Again, I save like every 2 minutes or something because I just want to make sure that if it fails, if it crashes, that I don't lose any work. So I want to make a movie out of this. So in order to make a movie, you hit composition and hold on a second. Sorry, add to render queue. I'm doing this with my glasses on. Usually I don't. So you add to render queue. So you take your file composition. So in here, you've got the comp. The demo comp is selected with this blue line around it. And you hit composition, add to render queue. You get a dialog box down here, right on top of the demo composition. And this is your render queue. So your best settings, your lossless, and your demo 4 output name need to be taken care of. So you hit best settings, and you hit, just look through these because in the new Creative Cloud they change overnight. Best, full, size, read only, layers. Okay, so use 24 frames. This is okay. Custom, we want from 0 frames to 1 minute, 11 seconds, and 10 frames. That's okay. If we wanted to limit it to just anything else, we could hit custom and change those here. Say okay. Once you hit okay, this becomes custom. Then go to lossless. And again, read through these dialog boxes. You want a QuickTime movie. It's going to be an RGB format options. So in your format options, it's coming in as animation. So in After Effects, there used to be a bunch of codecs. Now you've only got a few of them. So just leave it as animation. And next week I can show you how to take it into media encoder. All right, look at this, best quality, say okay. Once you do this, and then say okay, this says custom QuickTime movie. Go to the demo 4, where do you want it to go? You want it to go to the desktop. You could actually put it inside the demo folder, right? That's your demo right there. So hit demo. It's going to be a QuickTime movie. You can hit save. And once you do this, it doesn't change because you didn't change the name of it. And then go all the way to the right and hit render. Watch your progress bar. And I usually turn my volume down because the chime is really loud. All right, so while it's doing this, it is rendering a QuickTime movie, but they're in the new Creative Cloud. There's a problem. It usually won't play until you put it in a media encoder. We'll check on this in just a moment. And I have media encoder open already anyway, so if we need to, I can just show you how to do that really quickly. Again, the rest of this movie is black because we just didn't load it. I could have limited it to just those first seconds. And our chime is going to happen here in just a moment. There you go. I turned my volume down. And remember, zoom is the middle wheel on your mouse. And you can move this around by just the space bar. It's standard After Effects stuff. All right, so I'm going to go back to my folder. I'm going to look at it. So inside now here, I have an AEP log folder. Keep that. Don't worry about it. I need to see my movie. So my movie's right here. I'm just going to right click and open with QuickTime Movie. It's probably not going to work. And so this could not be open because it needs to be converted. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that folder or this movie and we're going to open it with media encoder. And media encoder is not selected right here. So I'm going to hit other. And I'm going to go find media encoder. The other way to do this is to just drag it. So let's just drag it. So I'm going to move this over so that I can drag it. And I'm going to open media encoder here. And it looks like this. So I'm just going to take this QuickTime movie and I'm just going to drag it right here. All right, and it's just really easy. This is a very simple application. All you do is hit play. And it's going to take this H.264 and it's going to go to demo. It's going to become an MP4 file. We can talk about lots of different formats later, but you just play it by hitting the green button and it's going to render. You'll see what's happening in a little preview down here. It's going to take a moment, and then as soon as it hits the black frames, it'll disappear. And remember, media encoder has all kinds of codecs built into it, but right now we're just rendering an MP4 file, which is really small. You would want to render a QuickTime file, maybe. H.264 is okay, but if you're working in your collab or if you're working in any of your other high-end project classes, you want to render it back out as animation codec or none. You want to render it at full resolution. There's a whole bunch of different codecs right here. So right now you can see it's working. And all you did was bring it into media encoder, into this project window and hit play. And now it's going faster because there's nothing to render. Now we're going to go back and we're going to look at our folder. We're going to look at our demo folder. There's no chime this time. And inside our demo folder now, we should see an MP4 file. So right here, and this is always a clue that it's working correctly, is that this logo, this little icon here, It's raw. It's like, this won't play. It says QuickTime Movie, but it won't play. So this has a little preview. It has a little icon. I could actually hit my space bar and it'll play. But let's open it with QuickTime Player. And now you can see what your movie looks like. And it's only like a few seconds long. All right, so what I need from you then is to look at this. I'm going to put this movie up on YouTube. I want you to look at this at least a couple of times to make sure that you understand the process. I'm going to stop this playback, make it smaller. And I need you to get working on your boards. So let me go back to my Zoom. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna pause the recording.